Right, welcome in everybody to the Beacon Breakdown. No air this week, coming back from fall break, so still catching up on that. But we've got me, MikeTerrific, grad assistant here, and Tristan, our lovely director. So I like your
I
jacket
was
here,
I
Tristan.
was gonna say we have matching shirts, so I
Yes.
mean it's not something that you see every
Uh-huh.
week on the Beacon
Yeah.
Breakdown. So yeah, sorry we're a little late today. We actually just got in off the road, so Mike and I were recruiting this afternoon. We were over at Portage High School here in Northwest Indiana, so we had a lot of fun talking to their program. They have a really strong Rocket League team who just won, I believe, the Bethel Pilots tournament this past weekend. So getting out, hitting the road, talking to Portage. We went down to Kankakee Valley a couple of weeks ago just to check out their strong program too. So it's been a lot of fun getting to know, the high school teams in the area. So how was your first recruiting trip?
It was good. Yeah, it was exciting to see the kinds of things they're working with, all their players, prospects, and their facilities as well. Really big high school, and it seems like they have a great program there under Nicholas. So
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun seeing what they do in the ISON, the Indiana High School Esports Network, this next year.
yes,
I know their Rocket League team is prime, so yeah, not too bad of a day.
yeah. And I mean, speaking of Rocket League, our own team just competed last Thursday here.
Yeah, so Rocket League Brown had a tough loss. Yeah, it was they played really strongly against the University of Michigan. They ended up taking game one, but then unfortunately dropped the next three. So Rock League Brown is right there. They're right there, and they've shown that they can really step up and compete with the best. They just have to put a full 5 games together, But still a lot of season left in the NECC, and it'll be interesting to see how things go. Gold ended up rescheduling, so
Yes, yeah,
they'll what is that doubleheader this week?
I believe so.
I think so.
Yes,
Yeah,
so
so
yeah.
it'll be good to see gold from there. What else did we have? We just practiced this in the car.
Yes. We had our Smash team on Tuesday last week, I believe. Pretty good win over there. Over their opponent is escaping me for some reason, but it was a good win, a good 2-0 win, and we got to see a lot of our players that don't normally play a lot get in there. And it was a really good showing, especially from Spencer, Mr. Goldstrom. I know he showed up and he pulled off a lot of combos he's been working on, and that was great to see his progress
I
there.
think it was Buena Vista. Does that sound right?
Yes,
Yes.
Buena
Yeah.
Vista it
Yeah.
was.
Buena Vista.
Yes.
So yeah, it was a fantastic game, and I know Smash is gonna have a fun matchup this Tuesday night as they're against Lambton. I think I'm pronouncing that
Yes.
correctly. As both teams are undefeated in the NECC, so it's going to be a fun Tuesday night for Smash. Also going to be a fun Saturday for Smash as they have a doubleheader. Mount Union at 9 a.m. and then maybe.
We will check the schedule here real quick. We're pulling it up as we speak.
uh,
Yes, so they will be playing Mount Union at 9 a.m. and then at 11 a.m. they have a matchup against Bethel. So,
Oh, so it's going to be a very, very strong weekend. So
yes.
Bethel, Mount Union, ourselves, Manchester, all right now in the mix for the top seeds. So it's going to be a busy, tough Saturday for Smash. Like a busy week,
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
everything going on there.
And I mean, everyone in contention trying to get their seeding for the LAN event coming up here and trying to lock in that first seed, hopefully for Valpo. But, these matchups will decide a lot of that. So,
Yeah, and then so we had some Overwatch fun.
yeah. Thursday night, everyone kind of hoping on their way out for fall break, but we were still here for our first week of Overwatch, Overwatch 2, actually. So it was chaotic for sure. I mean, the players themselves didn't even have much time to play the new version of the game before they were hopping right into competition there.
Yeah, and Valpo Shield, who ended last season in the semifinals for nationals, but they ended up having a very strong week one against Purdue, having a victory there. Valpo Beacon, a little bit of a rocky start, still ended up taking a map or two, but ended up dropping their first game. But they were actually moved up a division, so they're facing a lot stronger competition than they did than they saw last year. So.
Yeah. And I mean, lots of changes on the Shield side. I believe we had Chris move up from Beacon to Shield, and then we also have a new player, Ben, aka Fusk. I believe I'm pronouncing that right. And he's been a really big addition, playing support in that 3-0 win for us last week. And then, on the Beacon side, changes for them too. We talked about Chris moving up, and then because of break, they were missing their captain, Abby. So a little bit of a weaker team there, and they did ultimately fall 3-1. And it's a tough loss considering how much success they had last season, but they did move up a division, right?
Well,
So,
and any CC Overwatch is going to be a sprint, right? They're just throwing all the games. I think we have double headers now, the next two
yep.
or 3 weeks or so. So there's going to be a lot of learning. Yeah, as the game
Hmm.
just came out, so getting used to everything in Overwatch 2 and figuring that out and going through fall is going to come at you fast.
Yep.
Like it came at me fast when I was destroyed in our Overwatch 2 community night,
Yes.
as I was the only player on controller, and I found out very quickly why that's a bad thing.
Yes. No aim assist for you on that one. So moving on to our next team, we can talk a little bit about League of Legends,
Yes.
our other big team here. Just picked up a victory on Wednesday night. I believe it was 2-1, and we can double check the opponent here real quick. Uh, that would be 2-1 versus Purdue Fort Wayne. So,
Yes, yes. And that was a big win because they're hanging at the top of the NECC standings for their division. So they're holding on strong. The League of Legends team continues to build on that early season momentum with another NECC victory. But they're heading into this Saturday with some really important games when it comes to the GLEC seeding standings.
yes.
I believe they've got Anderson at 11 a.m. Saturday, which both teams are coming into the matchup 6-1, I believe. And then who do we have at 1?
At 1 o'clock, we are playing Trine.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so everything as we're coming in. So the Gleck LAN event for playoffs is coming up. We're now about 4 weeks out or
Hmm.
so. So everything in the GLEC is coming time. So yeah, every matchup now is going to count.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really great to see, their success. They were, kind of like a 500 team last season, but now they've been picking up a lot more victories. And, it seems like, you're bringing back a lot of players from last year. So they've already kind of built up that chemistry. They know each other, and they have really good depth. I mean, we're seeing, in our league games, we're rotating our jungler, we're rotating our top laner. At those positions, we kind of have two options that are, on the same par and talent wise. So.
Now, Hearthstone, I don't believe we had any action this past week or weekend, but iRacing was. So we had a really fun iRacing event, racing in both series, Monday and Tuesday nights. Monday nights was a little hectic as we had a super speedway race. We had 3 Valpo racers racing in the pink car. With the new paint scheme, obviously, for Breast Cancer Awareness Month, but it was late in the race, probably 8, 9 laps to go, and we actually had all 3 racers lined up heading to the front.
Hmm.
And unfortunately, the tail end of our crew there got clipped and caused a yellow flag, and then we got shuffled back. But iRacing continues to have good races week in and week out. Ethan Decatur, one of our iRacers who is new in the Prospect Series, is top 10 in points, I believe.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so just continuing to find solid races, solid finishes. Credit to Ricky, who was on the Beacon breakdown last week,
Hmm.
for his work and his dedication for the time with the iRacing team this year too.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not much of a racing guy. I don't watch a lot of NASCAR, but I was in there on Monday night for that race, and we had our three racers, and we had Ricky spotting, and man, it was intense to like hear the energy and hear them be like, stay the course, go left, watch this guy here. It was just so much going on so quickly and a lot more action than I would have ever expected to find in racing. So.
Yeah, I was at home watching it on the couch on the big screen in the living room, and got in trouble for yelling at 9 o'clock at night. Whatever time that wreck happened,
Hmm.
I was in a little bit of trouble with how loud I was. But no, it's been a lot of fun seeing the races, and can't wait to finish that out because it's past midterms. We're
Yeah.
already halfway through the semester. Um, Yeah, I can't believe how fast it's gone.
Yeah, just as fast as them on the track.
Right?
Oh,
So, speaking breakdown, obviously not the normal host. Neither of us are Laird, but we're
yes.
trying to persevere as we come out of fall break. So, today's topic, I said we're going to talk a little bit about Mike. So Mike came to us last year. You interned with us throughout the entire year, and luckily our program is getting to a point where we developed to actually bring you on now full time and have you be a part of the program. But you were involved in esports before Valpo, so I wanted to have Mike talk a little bit about his journey through esports, and how he actually got to be sitting in the seat beside me today.
Yeah, I mean, esports overall, like growing up, I was not a gamer, no Xbox, no, PS3, no nothing. Um, I was just, very much just like a non-gamer guy, right? So I get to high school and, I start meeting the nerdy crowd, I guess, right? And I'm sitting there, on my crappy laptop playing Apex Legends at 20 FPS, right? um, so in my high school it was interesting because it was on the campus of the university that I went to my undergrad at, right? So I mean it was a very smooth transition into that, except for COVID, right? So I graduate from high school, a lot of dual enrollment. I'm only expecting to do 2 years to complete my bachelor's. So I start in the fall of 2019 there, and don't even get a full year in before we're kicked off. We're online. I'm not even there, right? Um, but COVID's kicking in, and then I hear from a friend that hey, they want to start up this esports program. And I'm like, I mean, I'm not that good, but I like video games, man. So, I joined the Discord server. I'm like, hey, I'm interested, whatnot. And I get a message from this guy that said, hey, you play Valorant. We need Valorant players. And I'm like, I'm literally silver, man. Like, you don't want me. And he's like, no, we need Valorant players. So, um, I joined that team and, I'm grinding. I moved all the way from one season. I started bronze 2 and then I end up plat 3, I believe
Wow,
it was.
wow,
So
awesome.
I was playing a lot of Valorant in COVID. I'll say that much. Um, so interesting experience because we played all of our games remotely. I'm
Mhm.
sitting there in my bedroom in Discord with them, and we're playing our conference games, and it was a fun experience. It was good to have, that connection through COVID, right? Because,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
if I wasn't stuck at home, I'm probably not joining esports,
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
Well, I think that was one of the interesting things about COVID and esports as a whole. When COVID shut things down, because it happened here too. We were sent home for spring break and then never really came back. Um, Everyone was kind of discombobulated, right?
Oh,
You're
yeah.
you're all over. Your friends are here, or there. Yeah, you're not on campus anymore. And esports was different because while we were at home and not in the actual lab, we were still together. So it was a strange thing where COVID, kind of fractured everything else, but esports still managed to kind of keep those relationships pretty intact because we were still practicing, 4 or 5 days a week. We were still competing, at 1 to 2 times a week, and so it kind of kept things whole. So I think esports was able to kind of weather that storm a little easier than some programs because those relationships are already built in because video games are inherently online, and it was easier to kind of do that way. Now we did struggle because we had some players who did have the 20 fps
Uh-huh.
laptop and that kind of stuff, and even sometimes we've had players that didn't actually own a PC. That's the nice thing about the lab and what we're trying to do is just we want zero barrier to entry. It doesn't matter if you own a laptop or if you own a desktop. It doesn't matter because we've got that here for you. But that was one of the hard parts of COVID, right?
Hmm.
Sending people home. Maybe they didn't have that equipment or the internet connection. the
Yeah.
the actual internet connection itself. That was tough too. But um, I can't imagine starting a program during that time. We were already almost a year old at that point, so we were already having our own growing pains, but we were kind of set. But having to start a program then, that's hard.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely, disorganized, and like, at first it's like we weren't in any of those solids leagues. So like sometimes it'd be, you'll see on Twitter, hey, $500 prize pool, free to enter. We were like, okay, we're playing this Valorant tournament, right?
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just, finding these random tournaments, showing up, hopping in online, and, playing with those guys. And, you do deal with those issues. At first, I was on that laptop. I was on Wi-Fi disconnecting from our league games, and being like, okay, we got to pause. Can you fix it? Can you get back in? So chaotic for sure. But I mean, after that experience, I was like, okay, I'm all in now. So, you build the PC, you get off that laptop, and, then it starts to get a little smoother.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I mean, I mostly know from the Valorant side, but, we were starting Overwatch teams and League of Legends teams, and I'm sure they were going through a very similar thing. And then, you know, the ultimate payoff, right, is, just as I'm graduating, those last few months, I finally get to see our lab space that, we've built, and, go in there and see our IT director down there at the University of Michigan Flint, was the one who was starting the esports, and, he knows a ton about the technical side. So the way he has the lab set up from the technological standpoint has been incredible. And then, a little bit disorganized our first year, but I know he's brought on some student assistants, and, this past year they've started to get more Twitch streams, more social media, more of all that stuff. So it's coming together from
Yeah.
that
It
rough COVID start.
it takes a while. It does. Now, so after going through all of that, and for those of you who don't know, Mike is our graduate assistant for the program, so he oversees a lot of the day-to-day in the lab. He helps, oversee the teams and some of the compliance pieces and some of the equipment, and then, anything that might happen during game day. You know, when you take a look at what kind of you went through and those growing pains, even if it was a short amount of time, but kind of that craziness of COVID and starting the program, do you think or how do you think it prepared you now for the life that you're living as a esports grad assistant?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, like it almost completely prepared me, right? Like 4 years ago, I don't even think I had any idea that like this whole esports world existed, right? So it's like, you know, most of what I learned and what I know about esports, and, the way you set up scrims, the way tournaments work, all of these different things, you know, do come from that experience. And, like I said, if it wasn't for COVID, I definitely wouldn't be here. Before, I was trying, intramural soccer, and, I had my D&D group, and I had all these other extracurriculars. But, COVID hits and cuts that off, and I'm like, hey, I've enjoyed the little bit of video games I played. Why don't I spend more time on that? And then, you know, we end up here. So,
And I'm okay with it. So,
yeah.
so esports in your undergrad, spent a year with me as an intern, and now you're the esports grad assistant here. But you also write, right? You do
Yes.
some esports writing.
I've written some articles for you. I've written some articles for The Torch, our student paper, and then over the summer I had an internship with a website called The Game House, where I covered Apex Legends for them. Um, you know, Honestly, journalism in the space is also kind of,
Hmm.
rocky start getting there. Um, the pay was, not great, obviously. So, um, but I mean, it was a lot of freedom, which was good. My boss there was like, write about whatever you want, pretty much. Like, it's Apex, you write about it. And also focusing a lot on like the search engine stuff. A big thing for these esports site is, how many views can we get? Like, we
Hmm.
need as much ad revenue as we can get. So, it's all about researching on the back end. What do Apex Legends fans want? What are they searching for? What do they want to know about? And then we write that, we
Right,
deliver to them.
for sure. All right, so then the overarching question, the question we always get, what's next? What's the goal? What are the next steps for Mike Terrific?
you know, I wish I had an answer for you. um, Obviously, I know I like esports. That's something I would love to work in. Where, how, those are still opportunities I'm looking at. I think it would be incredible to work for a major org someday, a TSM, a C9, something like that. But on the way there, I'm open to all of my options pretty much, and uh, not necessarily committed to esports
Sure.
100%. If there's other options, other ways to help people. In high school and college, I worked a lot with nonprofit, so that's another
Awesome.
area that interests me is, working with those nonprofit organizations to help local communities and developing communities. So
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's it.
that's a wrap. Are we there?
I think that's it in filling in for Laird and Keegan, and this may be the only big break blah, blah, beacon
Beacon
breakdown
breakdown.
this
Yes.
entire year with matching
Yes.
casters. So we've
Well,
done one
we're
thing.
we're gonna have to get Keegan to wear his jersey, and then
Yes.
the guests can wear their jersey.
Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Well, take it away from us. But
yeah.
uh,
Oh,
well, thank you. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll be back next week, same time ish, same place. For MikeTerrific, I'm Tristan Leonhard, director of esports. But we'll be back this week. I'm sure we'll have Smash tomorrow night. I'm sure
yep.
we'll have maybe League, maybe some. Oh, Rocket League is gonna be on the NECC stream this Friday. So
Okay.
they're on the main stream.
Yes. Yeah.
And then we'll definitely have some cast going on this Saturday too. So
Yep.
thank you all. Uh,
Yep.
that's it.
Thank you.